Hi, everybody, and welcome to Proline Daily, the longest-running sports handicapping show in America. Coming to you direct from Las Vegas, it's Jim Feist and myself, Dave Koken. And, well, Jim, we have a champ. North Carolina has won the NCAA title. I guess move on to the NBA and NHL from there, and baseball in its first week. Before we get to the NCAA talk, because we are going to talk about what happened last night, Jim, you had one NBA game last night and hit it. The Blazers came through. The Blazers and T-Wolves over came through, and 59-31 is now the NBA run. The stars of the show last night, unfortunately, and it turned out to be the stars of a bad show, were the three guys wearing the striped uniforms. Jim, I had the winner, and that's the only satisfaction I got out of watching this game. It was a terrible basketball game in which both teams played poorly, but I really believe that the overabundance of whistles and a lot of ticky-tack stuff being called contributed greatly to neither team finding its rhythm. I mean, stop and think about this. The winning team shot 36% from the field. They were 4 for 27 from the foul line. 4 for 27 on threes, and they missed 11 free throws. And they won. That tells you how bad this game was. It's the worst close title game I've ever seen in any sport, maybe.
They were also out-rebounded.
Yeah, North Carolina was plus 10 net turnovers, and that actually was huge in the game. But, I mean, referees robbed the fans of what should have been a great game, and I believe that they were the culprits here.
They set college basketball back 100 years. In popularity off that game. A lot of people were just turning it off. I was disgusted watching it, even though I was in the game the whole way. I lost with Gonzaga, but it was one of those kind of situations. But the refs totally controlled the game in the second half. I mean, the first half was actually a pretty good half.
First half wasn't bad, and I was expecting the second half to be dynamite, and then they all started off. I mean, both teams in the bonus like a handful of minutes into the second half. What are they doing?
They had Collins, who's the best player on the floor, going to be a high draft choice in the NBA for Gonzaga. They had him his fourth foul with 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, and it was a terrible call.
And then they foul. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people out there, saying, okay, this is the Eastern establishment. You got the Roy Williams, you got the pedigree of the UNC and all that, and they don't really want a mid-major to win one of these things.
I don't think that was it, because I thought they made bad calls the other way too.
Oh, they did. They did. The thing is, that's what I'm not saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what people are saying.
Oh yeah.
And, so when myth becomes popular, it becomes reality in people's minds, and that's not good for the sport. And I don't know how you correct 3 out-of-control officials during a game unless you got somebody. I mean, they were totally out of control.
You wonder if we know there's pressure on the players in a game of this magnitude. Well, maybe the pressure got to the officials as well. They're human, and I'm not going to go and trash them personally. I'm sure I would quite honestly, I would think that they all probably feel badly about what took place last night. But
they're going to make excuses. They're going to say it was a physical game and they had to call it tight. Can't let it out of control. I've heard all that BS for many years. But we watched 3 teams out there last night.
Yeah.
Gonzaga, UNC, and the refs won. That's what it came down to.
That really does cover it. There's not much more to say. I think if these teams were to play 10 times with the referees staying out of the way, I could make a case that each team would win 5 games. They were that closely matched.
I totally agree. That could have been a great game. Yeah. Even though I never thought that either team was extremely special, I thought they were B-plus teams or A-minus teams. They don't measure up to some of the teams we've seen in the past, but they were very competitive, evenly matched. The kids played hard, and Barry, bad ankles and all, he shot well, he did well. Goss was played really hard. The big guy, for Gonzaga, I mean, he had a really bad night. I mean,
Oh man, he missed some close shots.
Oh my goodness, but I'm not saying there's anything nefarious going on with the officials. I know the public are going to say that.
No, I don't think so.
But I do think that they were out of control, and they ruined it. They ruined the whole night for everybody. The viewership was there, but they turned it up. But anyway, one of the things that I'm reading in the news today is about Tony Romo. Has he officially left the sport?
Oh boy, I don't know. It kind of sounds like it, doesn't it?
It does, and I'm wondering why Jerry Jones only yesterday gave permission to other clubs to talk to him when that should have been done at least a month or month and a half ago. Why did he wait so long?
Well, maybe he didn't know if Romo was going to play. I think it's probably, if this is Romo's decision, and I'm not sure it is, because I don't know the guy, but if he is deciding not to play anymore, I think it's probably a smart move on his part for the rest of his life from a physical standpoint. He's got all the money he needs that he's made in the sport already. He's got a second career waiting for him, whether it's in Hollywood or as an announcer. He's very well liked, popular guy. But I'm telling you what, we see these players 20 years after the fact in bad shape. I mean, they're all in bad. We knew one of them very well, Jack Snow. And Jack didn't have the concussion issues that a lot of the players are having. But Jack had all kinds of physical problems, and indirectly, it's what killed him. Because he had to have a hip replacement. That was due to football. And unfortunately, he got a staph infection in the hospital, and that was the end of Jack's life. Now, that's an extreme case, but how many ex-football players, and I know my share because we've got, a bunch of them live out here in Las Vegas. Man, I'm telling you, these guys that are 50 and 55 walk around like they're 70 and 75. Their bodies are just beaten up beyond belief. Maybe Romo's looking at that and saying, do I really need this? And if he's saying no, I think he's making a smart move.
I agree. I mean, he has been extremely fragile. And I don't know, what's he played 3 games in 3 years? I mean,
yeah.
It's so when you really look at it and the punishment these guys take, he's already made the money. He's got the fame. You said like these several careers are waiting for him. He's got a family, and I think he wants to be around and be mentally stable and everything else to enjoy his children growing up. And I hope he does retire. I think based on his physical inability to stay on the field the last several years, I think it's time. It's I agree with you.
And I'll bring up another example, and it's not the same sport, but, David Ortiz could easily have continued playing from an ability standpoint. Obviously, his talent was still intact. He had a great 2016. But he made the decision before last year that his body was starting to break down. And it's not the same kind of breakdowns as football players have, obviously. But he'd made that decision and went all out last year, had a great season. But those people who were saying, oh, he'll be back next year, change his mind, well, they were wrong because he's not changing his mind. He's in a very similar position to Romo in terms of his popularity. David Ortiz can do anything he wants. He doesn't have to play baseball to stay in the public light, so to speak. He can do whatever he wants. And he decided that the smart thing, because he was really going through some physical issues last year, he had to take a physical therapist with him on the road just to get ready to play games. And he wasn't even in the field. That was just a DH. His feet were so bad he had to basically soak them for 2 hours before each game and then after the games as well. It was just really debilitating mentally, I think. And congratulations to him for sticking it out the whole year and having a great season. But he made the right move, considering the rest of his life physically. I think Romo's doing the same thing, and I really think some other players who have had their share of injuries and have gotten beaten up should consider it. I'll give you one. If I'm Rob Gronkowski, I'm seriously going to start considering walking away in the next couple of years. That guy is as physical a football player as we've seen in a lot of years. I mean, he plays every down like it's his last. And he's paying for it already physically. I don't think he's ready to leave just yet, but a couple more years, and I'd say, if I'm him, advising him, I'm saying, that's it. Get out. Get out while the getting's good, buddy.
Yeah, if you're fortunate enough to be physically able to play these sports and make an unbelievable amount of money, and reach the pinnacle of the sport, and then you have all these injuries and especially football with the concussion stuff, and where you can really get hurt and it can have long-term effects. Unless it's an ego trip, I don't know why you'd stick around.
Or an addiction.
Yeah, I look back at the Peyton Manning with the neck operations, and he won the Super Bowl in Indianapolis, and he sticks around. He goes back to Denver. I mean, the danger of that, in my mind, and I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but you'd think that why would you do that? But he did it. He got away with it. But
but here's the thing. Fortunately, he did it on a great football team that had an incredible defense, which led them to a Super Bowl championship. Had he been on a bad football team or an average football team and had the 2015 season that he had, that would be the last thing we remember, is how bad Peyton Manning really was in his last season. And we're talking about one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best football players to ever walk on a football field. A guy who changed the game forever with the way he played the position. And we would still be remembering that. Look, I can't say it tarnishes his reputation, because he's still the best player I ever saw play baseball. But I still can never get the picture out of my mind of Willie Mays just staggering around the outfield, unable to get under a pop fly in his last year. It was just embarrassing. And I still remember that. And that's the best player I ever saw. When it's time to go, you got to go. Well, you don't have to. It's a free country, but I don't know. That if I'm Romo, I would say that's it. The chances of him going out there and playing even at the level he did previously, I think are very remote, Jim. You mentioned it. He hasn't played. He's barely not played. He's barely played in the last few years, and he's not any younger. I would imagine he's in great shape physically because of the injury situation. I don't think the chances are real good that he's going to be a top-flight quarterback anymore, so why bother?
I thought that when all this happened and he was going to leave Dallas, et cetera, I thought that the best place for him to go, well, a couple places. Denver, but it's cold there, and with his physical injuries and stuff, cold weather does affect you more. Houston, I thought, was the best place because their offensive line is decent, their running game is decent, and their defense, especially with all their players back, is really exceptional. And that would be a good spot. It's indoors. You don't have to deal with the weather except for road games. If he was going to go anywhere, I thought that was the best place for him to go.
That's what they thought too, because that's why they did what they did with Osweiler and getting him out of there and stuff like that. So, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, NBA tonight. I've got one really good play. This isn't it, but let's talk about the Memphis Spurs game. The Grizzlies, they're going to make the playoffs. Not exactly heading toward the playoffs in great form.
No, that's for sure. Do you know what their record is when they play San Antonio? 7-35.
It's not very good.
No, yeah, I'd say not. I'd say not. It's about hitting by what, 20%?
Well, you know what? I mean, when Marc Gasol isn't on the floor for them, they're a pretty bad basketball team, and he has missed the last 5 games, and it's definitely shown. I mean, they're a good defensive team, but when Gasol is not on the floor, they're not a particularly good defensive team, and they can't win.
Well, the other thing is, what are the Spurs doing? They're locked into number 2.
Yeah.
This is, you really have to pick your spots this time of year. There's 9 games left or 9 days left, and before the playoffs, and there's only a few teams that are really working hard to get in, and there's other teams that you would think cashed it in, and then they come out and win a game every once in a while. But the Spurs very likely could start resting people. And I'm
they're
sure
locked into the number 2 seed pretty much.
Yeah, there's really nothing to play for them except get everybody healthy, because they have a couple players that are older, and they try to nurse them through the playoffs by doing that. But so it's a difficult spot.
Well, it is. What I would do from a betting standpoint, I think you wait around to see, patience is a virtue. Wait to see what the lineups look like tonight. If everybody's playing for San Antonio, then it might not be the worst bet in the world to lay the points. But, wait around. And that's the beauty of betting in 2017, especially for those of us here in Las Vegas, and I assume for most people around the country. You don't have to bet early. Sometimes it's advisable to bet early to get the best number, but if you're interested in betting this game, you wait around until about a half an hour before the game and get the lineups.
Well, if you can't do that, you might look at this. You know that Memphis is not an offensive dynamo, and the Spurs are very likely to rest players or only let them play a certain amount of time in the game. So you got to figure the offensive efficiency of both these teams could be down.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the under in the game. I think maybe if you really have to play early and not be able to watch line moves all day and stuff like that, and you want to play the game, I would say that would be the way to go.
Baseball today, we've got a thin schedule, but we'll look at one of the games that goes tonight, and that's the Cubs-Cardinals. Jake Arrieta, 2015 Cy Young winner, off an 18-8 2016 with a good ERA. And he will be on the mound against aging Adam Wainwright, who I think is getting by on savvy at this point. He wasn't real good last year. He'll find a way to get things done, and the Cardinals continue to be very good when Wainwright starts at home. I believe it's 44-19 in his last 63 home starts. But coming off a loss in the opener and having a day off as well, they're going to be fresh. I find it tough to go against the Cubs in this spot. It's not a game I didn't play any baseball today, but it's a game I considered. I made the line a little higher on this game than it is right now. Actually, no, I take that back. I made it exactly what it is on the number right now. So I don't have any particular value, but situationally, I would lean to the Cubs tonight.
Dave, I don't know if you've ever been asked this question before, but in football, the Super Bowl champion many times comes out flat the next year and doesn't do well right out of the gate. Could that happen in baseball as well?
Yeah, sure. It can happen, especially since everybody's going to get up to play the Cubs. I mean,
that's right.
That's the team you want to play right now.
That's right. Yeah.
But, it's still a game that is about pitching and hitting. And I don't know, I've never been much of a believer in emotions unless it's a situation where a team has got chaos going on. In that case, you want to play against them. And we will see some stuff like that during the course of the season where there's some clubhouse issues and it impacts the play on the field. I don't think that happens with the Cubs, particularly with Joe Madden as the manager. I don't know if they're the best team because there are some people who believe the Dodgers might be better than the Cubs if they can stay healthy, which they didn't do last year. And I think that's debatable at least, but I think the Cubs will be fine. By the way, head-to-head, the under has been good when these teams play lately. 5-1-1 to the under in the last 7 meetings. And we'll see what happens tonight. I think that's about it. We've got free plays every day on a recorded message. The number to call is 888-294-1970. I didn't get to our free play yet. I will in a second because I've got a very good free play, I think. 888-294-1970.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Jim Feist Sports.